Hello everybody and welcome back to our show. Hi, how are ya? Good day everyone. ¿Cómo están? Wie geht's? Ni hao man. Here we are today in Radio UN with a new fresh episode of our podcast, Mormita, in which today we bring you a theme that can make some uncomfortable.
As you know, every Monday we talk about a different UN SDG. So today's SDG is trafficking, abuse, or torture against children, a topic that may be of no use to many people but still should be treated as an illegal act.
That's why today we did interviews to some people out there to see what they think about it, the situation in their country, how the education can change this situation, and more. Here we go!
But we can give our thoughts on the issue based just on the perspective. So we decided to interview 3 different persons from different parts of the world to know their opinion and knowledge of the issue.
So we formulated for them questions that will help them give their opinion based on what they have heard or witnessed on their respective countries. Of course, we faced some constraints while conducting the interview. The fact that it was an interview conducted on a social network and the little or lack of knowledge of the interviewees on the topic, the lack of statistics, the language barrier, and in some cases, the lack of awareness of the problem were our main constraints.
With that said, let's go to our first participant. Her name is Vanessa Sequeira. She is around 40 years old and comes from Costa Rica. She studied all her life until graduating from college.
One of the first things Vanessa mentions is that she believes trafficking is not necessarily related to cultural or social factions. Vanessa considers child abuse as a worldwide problem not exclusive from Latin American countries. She mentions that social factors can be an important component in the determination of how many children can be victims of human trafficking, indicates a lack of consistency in her opinion. When asked about whether she thought that undeveloped countries have more cases of child abuse, she replied that she didn't have the data to give opinions, so she didn't have the knowledge to answer the question. Let's listen to a piece of the interview.
I think trafficking is not necessarily related to a country or a specific factor in a country. I think it's more of a global problem. Poverty, of course, caused that. And I don't believe that racist or some sort of ideology has to do anything with this. I think education can help children to stop the abuse. And I also think the lack of education will increase that abuse. I don't know what the statistics, so I don't have the real numbers to answer. I personally think that will happen more if undeveloped countries than developed countries. Yes, it could because of the social factors that they are going through.
Well, now let's move on to the next interview. We'll listen to Craig Woodhull from England. He's around 42 years old and also studied until college. Craig's opinion is opposite of Vanessa's. He believes child abuse isn't a problem in civilized countries like England due to the control of the government has on what happens there. Racism doesn't have a connection with the SDG for him. He agrees with Vanessa about education makes a change in this issue, but he emphasizes the importance of education received at home. He also shares the idea that undeveloped countries have more cases of child abuse and exploitation due to cultural and economical factors of a country. He suggests that the government should give long sentences to not only to child abusers, but also for witnesses who allow any type of child abuse.
Craig's opinion is strongly influenced by a bias about his own country, proved with his belief about how civilized countries like the UK have no problems related to the SDG. What he doesn't know is that child cruelty and neglect have raised by 2,006% since 2013. Another belief he has is that underdeveloped countries have more cases of child abuse because the governments lack resources. However, it is true that the cultural factor increases the issue in underdeveloped countries.
I don't believe that we have this problem in my country. I believe that we've had many years of trying to be civilized. We have a very strict laws in parliament. I personally haven't seen any of this child abuse or trafficking existent in my country. It's not a major problem. But the most important thing is that children have an education. This starts at home. This may tend to happen if children of most undeveloped countries are more backwards in progress. They still celebrate a line of tradition.
Our last interviewee comes from India. His name is Sagar BN and he's around 35 years old. His level of education is also college. Sagar repeats several times that education is very important to accomplish the SDG, but he never went deep in the topic or reflection about it. He said just things that the government will say to control the international masses. He tried to justify all the child abuse with the ignorance and poverty, without a good research or valid arguments to support him. Also, child abuse now also happens between poor people, between people, and big multinationals are also involved. Let's listen to it.
The lack of basic education and health care, gender violation, prostitutions, and sexual aggression of young age, physical negligence of especially by parents or caretakers. Their parents don't having the educations, they don't know the value of the education. These will be the major causes for that. So education is more important. Poor peoples, they don't have they are not educated, and rich people will dominate with the poor. In India, we have a child act called the Protection of Child from Abuse means and Offense. It's called as POSCO. These kind of strict laws will be, most of the times it will reduce the child harassments.
And that's the end of our interview. But before we give our conclusions, we will have a break. We will be back soon.
Welcome back. Before we end today's session, the team will give a little conclusion based on a question for you. How have the testimonies collected motivated a change in me or in others? The opinion of the people that we interviewed is based on a lot of bias. It should also be taken as something to learn. People should know more about the subject at hand to start solving this problem.
Well, the opinion of the interviewees are strongly influenced by the bias about the civilized countries have little or no problems related to our SDG. The statements are based on their experience and not on data, because all three said they lack knowledge. All of the interviews agreed to in developed countries have more child abuse cases, and home education is the key factor to solve about this problem.
So these testimonies really motivate us to keep doing our podcast and inform people about the issue and get rid of these biases in order to motivate them to make the change, starting with little actions that can make a difference to a kid, like supporting institutions or shelters that protect children from abuse and trafficking.
With that being said, we end today's podcast. We hope you enjoy it and learn from it. We see you next Monday.